So now we're going to talk about the importance of joints. Oh my goodness. And one of the fundamental teachings that I did learn from Vikash is the importance of opening up the body, opening up the physical body, and then you can open up the energetic, emotional body. So you can see I'm a little bit warm and sweaty from that. And the biggest one, of course, is the hips. So this was a frequent exercise that we have been encouraged to do every day for at least 2 minutes. And of course, making sure that your bottom does not move forward. So to make sure we stay up and twist around. This is the more advanced movement. And if you're just beginning, then you can do a modified version of the joints by here. To expand on the joint even further would be when we lean forward, lift up the hip and do circle movements. 10 one way and 10 the other way to strengthen and mobilize this part of the body. And of course, we would do that on the opposite side as well. The other fundamental exercise with the hips and opening up the hips is butterfly. And quite often, Vikash will have us flap these very, very quickly, which really do help to open up the hips as well. And obviously pushing them down. And of course, you know, as we get more mobile and more flexible, there'll be a point in time where I'll be able to get up from that position. So butterfly is another one. And the other fundamental one as well for opening up the hips is when you are on a full 90-degree angle and you basically just hold this position for a multitude of minutes. Again, everything is in a proper right angle, the knee to the hip, the foot is straight. And we would hold that position. And then typically when you get out of that, your butterfly is much more flexible. And you can do this much better because this is going to be required, the hips to open in order to do compass. What happened with that practice that I just showed you between butterfly and the swastika here, as well as holding frog, that opens up the hip bones, but we also need the joints in the wrists to be very, very flexible in order to handle not only handstand, but also wheel, because wheel, it's a challenging movement. Wheel is very challenging, and this needs to be mobile. And of course, the other part with the hero pose, part one, or the beginner, is the feet flat like this, and advanced is like this. And this one I'm still working on. And usually I sit in on a block, but that again is part of the joints in the feet, as well as Malasana. Because, you know, I can do my squat here, but as you can see, I still look like a bit of a duck. So I have been practicing my squats here to try to lift, to lift the body up, keep the back flat, because I can do this no problem. But this is not what we need. We need our feet this way. So this again are the joints. So the joints are so fundamentally important because once they open up, then the body can open up and the muscles can move along with those exercises. So this helps with the wrist. And of course, with wheel, which I will show in a moment. I tried to use that at first because right now my hands are not completely flat. But when I first started practicing it, I give you 1 or 2 seconds and get down quickly, but now I can hold it much longer. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do my advanced now, but I just need to change my hair because wheel, as an example, I have to change that. So the first one I'm going to show is wheel. And I'm going to do it this way. And challenge for me is to get up and straighten my arms, but my wrists are not quite there yet. But they're getting there with strength, and I can hold this for a few moments and bring myself back down. But I gotta tell you, the first time I did that, it was a real challenge. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And of course, the other movement, the other advanced movement I've been practicing is camel as opposed to bridge. Now I can go like this, no problem. As you can see, camel, more of a challenge to bring it in with knees together. But that can be done also. So that's my camel, and this is my headstand, which I have been able to get in and out completely free flow. Just pointing and the balance, which honestly, every time I do this, I feel, honestly, every time I do that, I feel like I'm a little girl. I'm so excited. So camel, wheel, headstand, handstand. I'm also practicing. And I cannot quite hold the handstand as long, free-flowing as I can the headstand, but I am still practicing. And the good news is I can get upside down and not be frightened by that. Okay, so that's advanced. Hi everybody, this is Paula Connor here, Kundalini Yoga with Elevate Knee Hub, and this video is what happens after 1 year of practice with yoga. So I had completed the recording for a 200-hour submission of my yoga practice. I had been practicing 100 hours, or had completed my first certification 100 hours, kind of part-time. It took me like 7-8 months because I was still recovering from my CrossFit, you could say addiction, because I loved CrossFit. I loved the aggressive workouts, and you know, one of the first mistakes I made when I started doing yoga, transitioning from a very high intensity workout, which is CrossFit. It's a combination of gymnastics, cardio, and strength training. I had done it for 8.5 years, into yoga, which is absolutely zero stress on the body. So I was doing it part-time, and then in August, I can't remember, a couple of years ago, and I think it was 2021. I'll check the date, and if I'm incorrect in saying that, I'll correct it on the video. But in August, I started my 200-hour segment, and I completed it and did the recording on the 14th of December. So today is the December the 13th of 2023. And it has now been 1 year and 4 months, August, September, October, November, December, 1 year and 4 months of practicing Kundalini Yoga, minimum 5 times a week, minimum 5 times per week. My practice tends to be around an hour and 40 minutes if I include my meditation, and I always make sure I do breath of fire, Nadi Shodan, alternate breathing, and meditation. So in the original video I submitted, I was talking about the importance of joints, and I was showing you the first major one is internal and external knee and hip and ankle rotation.
most fundamental thing I find is in a typical yoga practice, they don't, you know, you go into the yoga class and you're doing warrior 1 and warrior 2 and these different movements, but they don't necessarily show you how those movements can be available. And what my amazing teacher Vikash at Yoga Moo out of India mentioned is absolutely you have to open the body first, because if you open the body first, then when you attempt the asanas, they are available to you. And so the first one we talked about was your knees are quite far apart, your heels are in, and you're making a swastika kind of symbol with your knees and your hips. And why this is so important is because this strength here has to be flexible and strong. And when we mobilize these joints, you create something called synovial fluid. And you know, not unlike a car that is not used, we can rust up. And that is how come with age, we start to lose our mobility. We can't put on our socks. We can't get up and down perhaps from the toilet easily. We can't get off the floor easily without some kind of support. So it is really, really true. Use it or lose it. So internal and external rotation is very important. One of the other ones I talked about was butterfly. And this again is strengthening the hips, because if you get cramping, it could be dehydration, but primarily it is lack of strength. One thing I realized in the very beginning was I had to be warm. I had to warm up to make sure I could do things. And it is true, you still need to be warm, but the more you practice yoga, the stronger you get, the less of a warm-up you require. So this was one of them that I talked about, but the other one I did not talk about that I've since learned is, you know, Vikash used to have us hold on to our knees like this, hold on to the knees, and then lift yourself straight up. This requires strength in the hips and in the core, and in the beginning, I could only hold this movement for maybe 5 seconds because it was difficult. And now with practice, I can hold this for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And then that allows you the strength here so that you can sit up and sit down without any support, because we need to move. So that was the hips. I also talked about, what else did I talk about? So the hips, the butterfly. I showed you frog. I actually don't practice frog that often. That was the one when you're basically, your knees are nice and wide, your buttocks or your hips are over top of your knees. I talked about that. And then I also talked about a compass. Again, I also talked about compass. So that's internal and external hip rotations. That's butterfly, creating a strength here with the spine straight. We talked about frog, which I just showed you. And then compass as well. I referred to compass. So this would be the beginning of pigeon, but what we learned was do not use support. The knee stays here, and you bring the leg here. Now in the beginning, I could not do this at all. I could not touch my toes because I've been practicing pigeon, laying down, and this particular position for 2 minutes, pretty much at least 3 times a week in my practice. Every day I do a variation of pigeon, and it doesn't matter what side I am on, because you must balance the body, keeping the spine nice and straight. And again, I can do that again, which is pretty cool. And that allows us to get into not only positions like I showed before, which was hero pose, being this position, hero pose, as level 1. And the first time I tried this, oh my Lord, it was like, it was creaky. And then I have to admit, I have not practiced this. In the video prior to a year and 4 months ago, I said that I had been practicing this, and I actually have not. And I usually put towels underneath my feet to protect my tootsies, but I can actually sit here too with the feet out. Ideally, these knees would be in a little bit more, but I didn't practice this. This just became available to me. And the other thing with respect to hero pose, I wanted for the longest time to be able to sit here, and I've been using this stretching strap to keep my knees together so that I can actually lay back with my knees together. So this is something else that I wanted to do for so long, and it's available now because I practice it very often. I practice it pretty much every practice. The other movement that becomes available to you that I showed last time too was Malasana. And this is the squat. So last time I showed you that my feet were kind of like a duck, right? This is really easy, and even to sit upright, it's quite easy to be like this. But we want the ankles more straight. And in order to have the body upright like this, this requires strength in here, right in this hip area. And how we can stretch that is by mobilizing once again the hips in here. So, what have I forgotten? Let's take a look at a few other things. The importance of the wrists being strong, and I referred to wheel. But before I get there, because wheel is Chakrasana, and I'll show that in a moment. One of the most important things is you cannot rush the spine. You cannot rush the spine. You might make a millimeter in a week or in 2 weeks difference with your stretching. So what we do, the first 30 minutes of my practice is all mobilizing the spine. Strengthening, stretching, flexing. I like to call it flexercising. And how we do that is we rotate the spine in circles. So like you're in the middle of a drum, a barrel, and you're touching the barrel with each side of your body going around. So we rotate the spine in circles. We do seated cat and cow, which flexes the spine forwards and back. We do Sufi bends, is what I like to call this, where we are mobilizing the spine again and strengthening the side of the core, the legs, the quads. This also helps to mobilize the spine, strengthen it. And we also do spinal twists. This is Gyan Mudra. Gyan Mudra. One of the ways we do this is we're twisting the spine like this. And we always add conscious breath. Why? Because conscious breath exercises the lungs, and you'll find so look at what's happening with the body. You're basically, I like to call this like a washing machine, because all of your intestines are being toned and massaged and strengthened. And you'll find often with just these movements you burp, and wind in the body actually affects the heart. So again, mobilizing the spine. And I also like to do spine rotations from the top to the bottom. So hands are flexed above, and I'll do a minute to the left, a minute to the right. I'm just showing you how I'm rather sharing with you the exercises that I did over the course of a year that has allowed these asanas to be available to me, and I'm going to show you those in a moment. So it was a Sufi twist with the hands straight up, the hands behind the head, which is fantastic for the lymphatic system. Again, it's mobilizing the top part of your spine. Again, here also good for the lymphatic system. And then a Sufi twist with the Gyan Mudra. I began with 1 minute on each side. Now I can do that for 4 minutes on each side. So essentially 8 minutes of spinal twisting. That also burns the fat and gave me a bit of a waistline, which I've never had. So that's the spine. Getting to the wrists. Actually, now I will show you some of the exercises that I did to help the back, the spine, further be flexible enough so that Chakrasana or wheel is available. And I use a towel underneath my feet, because if you've got bunions or delicate tootsies, you know, we don't want, this is a practice. And my view is yoga is play. Practice is play. It makes me feel like a little girl. So what we do, after doing cat and cow, this is your cat and cow movement. I showed you seated. We can do cat and cow in this position as well as in easy pose, which I just showed you. And then cat and cow like this. And you can also do a figure 8 with cat and cow, or in this position. And you can change directions. Again, I'm just showing you what I did in order to be able to do Chakrasana, which is wheel. So I would do all of those movements first, then I would practice. I talked about camel first time around in the previous video. And I would basically lean back, and this here, there are affirmations for each of the chakras. So I would basically do a back bend, supporting the back here, and I would read the chakras from the crown to the third eye, bending back a little bit further, a little bit deeper every time. I would go then to the heart chakra, and halfway through, I would also just stretch out that back, making sure you always take a deep breath and inhale before any transition, because the number one injury in yoga is from one position to another. So do it consciously and inhale. We also take an inhale with back bends to protect the spine, at least a half of an inhale, so that you're protecting the spine. So halfway through, I might go into child's pose, just to bend forward. A nice few couple of breaths, bring the hands back. Inhale up, again, further flexing the spine, going deeper now. That would be our solar plexus chakra, down now just above the pubic bone to the sacral chakra. Again, if I felt like I needed just to stretch out, take an inhale, I would do that. And now I will show you, I've flexed my spine enough, I've warmed up my spine enough that I can do camel, which is fantastic for the digestive system, as well as if you have diabetic. The other thing that I did as well that helped with Chakrasana, which I'm going to show you next after this, is a wall walk. Rather, a wall walk down. I have to come a little bit closer here. One moment while I readjust my position. Again, my feet are protected, my bones, and I take a nice big inhale, and I reach for the wall, and I basically walk down the wall. And when I first started, I could not do that. So now, I'm going to just adjust the camera to come out. Actually, I need a little bit of room. So after the back bends on the wall, I'm showing you what I would essentially do in order to warm up, strengthen the spine, mobilize the spine, so that I can do Chakrasana. The next thing I would do would be Sufi rolls. So this gives a wonderful Massage. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. This gives a wonderful massage to the kidneys. And then, if you want to get more flexible, transitioning from your Sufi rolls, which gives a wonderful massage to the spine. If you want to improve your shoulder stand, which is Sarvangasana, and then into Halasana, which is your plow. This is what I added to get a better stretch so that your feet can actually touch the floor. So we continue with Sufi rolls. And then I would grab my ankles and I would stretch over my head. It's kind of like a tuck position. It's kind of like a tuck position, or like the opposite of a forward bend. And that helps. I will show you that now. So, having said all of that, all of those movements for the spine is what has enabled me to do Chakrasana, which is wheel, with a little bit of a twist. So I have to take this out because the bobble on top of my head limits my ability. So I showed wheel last time, so this is after 1 year of practicing. Again, so much, much better as far as the wrists go. And now I have developed enough strength that I can not only move a bit back and forth, but I can also come down without a crash landing. So that requires the wrists, mobility with the wrist. Again, I'm going to use the example of a car. If you don't use your body, mobilize your body, stretch it, strengthen it, it can get rusty and it can kind of seize up. So this is the other exercise that I learned in CrossFit that has helped me to strengthen the shoulders, which is required for plow, shoulder stand, and Halasana. I'll show you that first, and then I will show you the wall walks, which have helped the wrists. Okay, so again, Sufi rolls with a straightening of the leg to further stretch the spine so that when we go into Sarvangasana, shoulder stand, take a big inhale. Be as straight as you can. And allowing the arms to support the body, and the toes are touching the floor. Coming back without support. And the counter. Now, when I first started doing shoulder stand, I could not, or Halasana, I could not have my hands like that in the back. So you use the mat, and then that helps to build strength. And now this is the last, I will show you now the wall walk, which is what I do to help strengthen the wrists. It helps you in your handstands and strength for your headstands. so you can hold the balance, which is what I'm going to show you next. So your wall walk, you get up into your plank position and you walk back to the wall, nose to the wall, and walk back forward, down the wall. And that is what I did to help strengthen the, fix this again. That is what I did to help strengthen the wrists and the upper body, the core, so that handstands are available. But before I do that, I want to show you my headstand. I'm just going to come away from here a little bit. And you'll notice in the first video I did, I was against the wall and I did not have my crown. So these are basically just two towels I actually got at Costco, and I use these as support for my knees if I need them, or my feet, and also in my headstand. So the first time I had my crown exposed. So what I do now is I clasp my hands together, I open up my thumbs, and I essentially have my hands on the crown of my head. I place my head on the towel so the crown is there, and I'm basically making a tripod with my elbows. And then you can slowly come up and make balance. And this way your crown is completely protected, it's supported, and because you've developed the strength in your back and in your arms, you can hold this position quite easily. Coming down gently, and then coming back up. And then finally, I will show some handstands, which I didn't show last time, but I will this time, because it's progression. And this just shows what you can do. I'm going to move this again, hoping that you get a bit of an idea of leaning on the wall and coming away for a few seconds at a time. Back up. You can see I'm able to hold for a few seconds. I mean, we're not doing handstand walks, but the strength is there now, and I can hold a balance at least for a few seconds. And that is really all I wanted to share with you. How I got to be able to do the better back bands, the chakrasana, building up the strength. There's a few other things that I'm practicing now too. I am practicing scorpion, I beg your pardon. And that requires stretching. So help me stretch. Dolphin. Single-legged dolphin, both sides, or one-legged dolphin on both sides, bringing the knee into the chest on both sides. strengthens the arms. So that is what I wanted to show you today. All of the exercises that I have been practicing in order to make a few of those more advanced asanas available to me. So I'm going to come back and do another video on this individual movements to help you, because I do have an offering now that I would like to announce here today to help you not only incorporate the energies that are on this planet to help move it through your body, but to make sure that you're still mobile as you live your life. So as we move from our teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, sometimes the lifestyle changes, and we find that when we're in our 60s or 50s or 40s even, that we can't get up and down easily. We can't do the things that we loved anymore, like maybe the knees are sore, we can't ski anymore, we can't get up without support, we can't put on our socks. So I am offering, it's a 90-minute session, up to a 30-minute consult to understand what's going on in your body, where you need some help, where you have challenges, whether it's body, mind, or spirit. And then I will put together a customized recorded Kundalini yoga class specifically for you. And you have options in timing. A beloved friend of mine shared, some people cannot commit to an hour because that's a huge commitment. So you have options. I can record 4 different individual 15-minute segments, and they will go across mobility, strength, flexibility, and balance, specific to what you are looking at improving in your own body. So you can do 4 15-minute segments, you can do 3 20-minute segments, 2 30-minute segments, or you can do a full hour. And I will record those for you, and then they are yours to keep forever and a day. You can practice them and consume them how it best suits your lifestyle. So if you've only got 15 minutes, then 15 minutes a day is going to help you mobilize, strengthen, create balance and flexibility so that you are functional in your life and you can do all the things that you want to do. So thank you for watching. God bless you. This has been the greatest joy of my life, learning Kundalini Yoga. I am so grateful. I feel so strong, so flexible, very powerful. And I'm not in my 40s or my 30s or my 20s. I'm in my 50s, in my late 50s, and this is the best shape I've been in all of my life, and I actually love my body, and I love playing in my body. It's actually a joy. So I wish that for you too. So check out the website, elevatemehub.com, and you can go to the Kundalini Yoga Therapy page for more information. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye now.